staff, and welcome to the City of Kalgoorlie-Boulder agenda briefing for tonight, the 22nd of January 2024. Council would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians and the land on which we meet and show our respect to elders past and present. Tonight's agenda briefing is purely an information opportunity for councillors to ask questions only with no statements. It is an information seeking meeting, and should any further information be sought, please provide in writing as well further to tonight, and staff will take questions on notice should they not be able to supplement your questions this evening. Please note this meeting is being recorded and streamed live on the Council's website in accordance with the City's public participation in Council meeting policy, which can be viewed on Council's website. All reasonable care is taken to maintain your privacy. However, as a visitor in the public gallery, your presence may be recorded. By remaining in the public gallery, it is assumed your consent is given if your image is broadcast. The recommendations contained in the agenda are officers' recommendations only and should not be acted upon until Council has resolved to adopt those recommendations. The resolutions of Council should be confirmed by perusing the minutes of the Council meeting at which these recommendations were considered. Members of the public should also note that they act at their own risk if they enact any resolution prior to receiving official written notification of Council's decision. In attendance this evening, we have the Deputy Mayor alongside Councillor Bodica, Councillor Winner, Councillor Johnson, Councillor O'Donnell, Councillor Turner and Councillor Viskovich, with an apology from Councillor Brownlee. Members of staff tonight: CEO Andrew Bryan, Director of Corporate and Commercial Glenda Abraham, Director of Community Development Mia Hicks, Director of Engineering Louis Camperelli, Director of Development and Growth Alex Weiss, Executive Manager Finance Zandra Kerno, Executive Manager Governance and Risk Services Francis Liston, Governance Officer Jamie Boys, Governance Officer Evelyn Addison, IT Systems Admin Raj. No apologies, one apology obviously tonight, councillors, and that is to Councillor Brownlee. And further to that, we have one disclosure for this evening as well, received from Councillor Johnson to note for next week and also for discussion this evening. That is on item 15.3.3, Kalgoorlie-Boulder Cemetery Board Partnership Service Agreement, and impartiality is the chair of the Cemetery Board. Councillors, an opportunity to hear from staff on each of the particular reports. For the Statement of Financial Activity, item 15.1.1, we welcome Zandra Kerno, the Executive Manager of Finance. Officer recommendation is to receive the Statement of Financial Activity for the period ending 30th of November 2023. Any further information required? No? Councillors, any questions? Councillor Turner.
I just had a question with one of our variances in particular. The delays to the endowment block renewal works, obviously we haven't spent that money yet, so we're in negotiations with the contractors for the demolition of the old Coles and Kmart building. Can we see that happening in the near future or the next financial year perhaps? So this will be coming back to us as an expenditure that we've spent very soon, maybe?
Executive Manager, any details there? Just get you to come up to the microphone. Should have get you to come up to the microphone.
I don't know if one of the directors is better positioned to answer that question, because I don't know when the demolition or when the endowment block work is due.
Director of Engineering will get you, Mr. Camperelli, to come to the microphone.
We're looking at going out for an EOY next week for the demolition for the Aldi complex. So post then, we'll know a little bit more in probably about 6 weeks' time.
Thank you, Director. No further questions? No worries. No further questions of 15.1.1? Thank you. 15.1.2, also under the Executive Manager of Finance, the list of payments totalling over $4 million as presented for the month of December 2023. No presentation to that. Councillors, any questions? None taken. 15.1.3, commercial business reports, also under Executive Manager of Finance, being the responsible officer in Zandra Kerno. Executive Manager, do you wish to speak to that particular report? And this includes the airport, golf course, arts centre, Oasis, wastewater, and also endowment as well.
So these reports were previously provided to the Commercial Business Committee. However, obviously that's disbanded, or that's up for discussion in the next item. So the team have brought them to Council to review.
Sure.
Those here not coming.
Thank you. Councillors, any questions at this stage on those reports? There is quite a lot of reading there in what time we've had, so appreciate there might not be questions today, but they will be forthcoming. Thank you. Item 15.1.4, Mr CEO, this is from yourself, Council Committee.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. This is part of the tidy-up process, obviously, to disband the committees, which is part of the council discussion that's been held previously. This will start to formalise that process. It also will formalise the appointment, we ended up putting it in there, to the Museum and the Goldfields Advisory Committee. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr CEO. Councillors, any questions? Councillor Turner.
I note that we had a nomination for that. Do we need a proxy?
I don't believe it's required by the advisory board. They'd made contact with myself. They were only just after a member. Mr CEO, I do have one question. The disbanding of the Reconciliation Action Plan Working Group, where does that fit in with our position on that particular group at the moment and the status of our Reconciliation Action Plan?
Yeah, thank you. Through the Mayor. It won't impact on us. Most of the work that's actually done on the Reconciliation Action Plan is obviously all that work will continue. That will come back to Council as well over time to ensure that Council does have input for the strategic direction, but a lot of it in the actual planning itself is operational for the implementation of it, but Council does have that strategic oversight in setting that direction. We will be continuing to move down the line of the Reconciliation Action Plan framework by Reconciliation Australia to move to that next level over time. So that continues. So the committee really was reviewing the performance against it, plus setting that high level strategic direction, which will continue.
Thank you, Mr CEO. Any further questions, councillors? None taken on 15.1.4. 15.1.5, financial hardship policy. Mr CEO, you're down to speak for this. Sorry, I should take a slice of pizza. Apologies to those who are streaming in. It has been a very big day. Mr CEO?
I might pass this one across to Exec Manager Finance.
Thank you. Executive Manager. Good delegation, Mr CEO.
So the financial hardship policy was reviewed, and it was noted that there was no clause in there for the write-off of debts that may have arisen incorrectly for an administrative or clerical error. So it's just adding one paragraph to the policy to allow the CEO to use his professional judgment and assess those debts and write those debts off as required.
Excellent. Thank you. Any questions, councillors? None taken on 15.1.5. Thank you. 15.2 is Development and Growth. Director of Development and Growth, Alex Weiss, if you'd like to come to the microphone, please, to speak about this one. Councillors, noting that there has been a change in the recommendation you may have already seen. However, that's been updated, I believe, for all councillors. Director.
Thank you, Mayor. So this report asks Council to receive the meeting notes from the LEMC meeting held on the 8th of November. And also some of the associated documents tabled at that meeting, in particular the public version of the Community Welfare Plan, which is published by the Department of Communities, and the meeting notes and agenda.
Thank you, Director. Any questions, councillors? No questions on that. Thank you, Director Weiss. 15.3, Community Development, appointment of Kalgoorlie-Boulder Youth Council. Some details there in regards to the Kalgoorlie-Boulder Youth Council and appointing that council for the first meeting of the year. I think it's a pretty self-explanatory one. Director Hicks, would you care to brief council? Yes.
Evening, Council. We're asking you to appoint our youth councillors to the Youth Council for the term ceasing at the next ordinary local government election. We've received application for 8 returning members for a 2-year term.
Thank you. Excellent. 2-year term. Excellent. Thank you, Director. Questions? As pointed out, pretty self-explanatory. 15.3.2, Crookshanks Sporting Arena. Mr. CEO, this is exactly what appeared in the December meeting. Do you wish to clarify that before the recommendation?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This matter was presented to the December meeting. It was subsequently deferred back to the January meeting. It has been subject since of a councillor workshop. At this point in time, though, we have not received any amendments or alternate motions in relation to it, so it's presented as was at that meeting.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Councillors, any questions? Councillor Turner.
Just a question. So it hasn't been updated since that meeting, or has there been? I'm a little bit confused. I'm just asking. So we've brought exactly the same thing back, or has there been any updated information that has made it change? Or I noticed one of them, there's some acquittals. I thought they may have been put in.
Thank you, Mr.
Have they
CEO, to
been done
clarify.
yet?
Thank you. Through the Mayor. No, there has been no changes to it. It was the report which was deferred at that other meeting, straight back to this meeting. We haven't provided any further information at this point in time.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Any further questions? Councillor O'Donnell.
With it getting close to the Fair Society holding the annual fair at Crookshanks, has there been any application within the city to hold the fair anywhere else? Any organisation or the Fair Society come forward?
Mr. CEO, question?
Thank you. Through the Mayor. I'm not aware of any alternate locations being applied for to conduct the fair.
Thank you. Supplementary?
Supplementary. So the question is, I've been asked where the fair will be, if the fair is going to be on this year and that. So at the moment, does any community organisation still have time to arrange one, or has time passed by to get permits and other things going with the city?
Thank you. Councillor, Mr. CEO?
Yeah, thank you. Through the Mayor. Obviously, the time frame is tight for any group to come forward and do anything. There's an application that was received mid last year, off the top of the head, in relation to the fair, at which point in time that's been referred to relevant officers to look at. There was also an application came in relation to fireworks. I'm not sure if that has been signed off. It hasn't been signed off as yet either. There's a number of outstanding matters in relation to that. Council's decision last year was around not holding it at Crookshanks, but no alternate location has been applied for.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor. Any further questions? Sorry, Director of Development and Growth, first of all, to take to the stand, and then I've got Councillor Winner with the question. Sorry, Councillor Johnson with the question.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Just to advise Council that a sponsorship application was received today from the fair, but we haven't had a chance to review the application at this stage.
Thank you. Councillor Johnson? Microphone, please, Councillor Johnson. Thank you, Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, thank you. Just to confirm, Councillor Turner did mention about acquittals, etc., etc. So at the same time, an application was received that you've mentioned. Were there any acquittals attached to that?
Director of Development and Growth.
Thank you, Council. We haven't had a chance to review the accompanying documentation and submissions, so we'll need to take that on notice and get back to Council during the week.
Thank you, Director. No further questions, councillors? Councillor Viskovich.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to double check whether we had been in touch with the current tenants to organise a time for a meeting on future leases.
Thank you, Councillor. Mr. CEO.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. No, we haven't as yet. Council hasn't. We went back to the workshop to seek direction, which we haven't yet got from Council. We need the resolution to go forward to tell us what we're going to do in that space. So there has been informal discussions. They have contacted Council that I'm aware of, or Council officers, but at this stage we haven't arranged a meeting.
Councillor Viskovich.
Supplementary, I believe.
Absolutely, go for it.
Are we able to organise a meeting with the tenants that we have in that facility?
Mr CEO.
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor, the resolution that we've got for next week starts to commences that process. We'd enter into negotiations with each of the current leaseholders, depending on the decision of council next week. So ultimately, it's council's decision next week to direct us.
Thank you, Mr CEO. No further questions, councillors? Thank you. That is 15.3.2. 15.3.3, Kalgoorlie-Boulder Cemetery Board Partnership Service Agreement variation, noting Councillor Johnson's impartiality. Director, Community Development, Mayor Hicks.
Thank you, Mayor. We're asking Council to approve an amendment to a partnership service agreement that we hold with the Kalgoorlie-Boulder Cemetery Board. This is to permit a departure from the partnership service agreement policy that allows the cemetery to submit their acquittals 1 year in arrears. And you'll note in the report that that is due to a requirement for them to have their financials audited by the Office of the Auditor General, which does take significant time.
Thank you, Director. Any questions, councillors? Councillor Turner?
So my understanding of this is that the Kalgoorlie-Boulder Cemetery Board has in fact got their got their financial statements. They're very much got their house in order and they're up to date. However, because they have to wait under legislation, which unfortunately is a lot of organisations around the state, and the Office of Auditor General is under the pump from what I understand. So it's through no fault. I'd like it, maybe clarified, it's through no fault of the cemetery boards. They've got everything there and they've submitted it, but they just are waiting on another government department.
So
is that
question,
true?
Question from Councillor Turner, Director.
Yes, they have submitted their financial statements for auditing from the Office of the Auditor General. It's just pending.
Thank you. No further questions. Thank you, Director. Quarterly report on major projects, item 15.4.1, Director of Engineering, with some significant updates on many of our projects. Many updates which are on track, some which might be faltering and some which are a little bit off track.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So it's just the quarterly report of our major projects. Basically tells us where we're at and how we're tracking. Currently, of the 47 projects and $82.4 million worth of projects, we've currently got 7 of them that are off track, totalling at about $16.3 million. We have 6 projects generally on track with some minor issues, so should be okay. They total about $15.1 million. And year to date, currently, as at December, we have expended $14.4 million of our budget.
Thank you, Director. Any questions on the major projects updates, councillors? Councillor O'Donnell.
Sorry. May I ask questions on projects off track, or that's...
You can ask questions
Yep.
of projects off track or on track.
Sorry, I've got my back to you. The projects off track, construction of staff housing. Has it had any feedback why we had no tender submissions to build houses here in Kalgoorlie-Boulder?
Director.
Yes, there was no submissions by the allocated time. One of the potentials did call post that. Let us know they just completely missed the time. We are going back out next week to all builders in Kalgoorlie, offering them another opportunity to tender.
Thank you, Councillor O'Donnell.
Supplementary. Did you get any feedback as to why we didn't get tender applications?
Director.
The only bit of feedback was the one tenderer that just completely missed the mark and apologised profusely.
Thank you, Director.
Right.
One more.
One more, please.
Yeah.
Golf course resort construction on hold. We go till the review of deed of assignment and variation of lease. Have the developers been in touch this year, at the end of last year, in relation to going forward with this review?
Update, please, Director.
I'll refer that to the Director of Corporate and Commercial.
Thank you, Director. Director, Corporate and Commercial.
We have prepared the letter, which has been legally reviewed and submitted to the developer. I've attempted to make contact with the developer this week because last week, obviously, with the outage of the power, we have had other priorities for the city. At this stage, they've not returned my call.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor O'Donnell, done with questions? Yep.
Negative. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Turner.
So I also have some questions with the projects off track because I think they would be the ones that are of most concern to all of us at the moment. Once again, the construction on staff housing on city-owned land is delayed. So obviously there was no tenders received. Somebody apologised, they didn't do it. It's going all out to local builders. I know it's a question I've probably asked previously. Have we looked at the tender process and how we've gone about doing this tender? Is that something that you've looked at reviewing, or are we going out exactly the same as we were before? So that's my first question.
Thank you, Director.
In this instance, we'll be going out to all builders to offer them the opportunity with the required time.
Thank you. Councillor Turner.
Okay, so my supplementary question is about the LED street lighting project. So it says it's dependent on Western Power submitting feedback to the consortium of councils on the revised project. Obviously, Western Power is under a lot of pressure with a lot of other things that they have probably as a much higher priority than LED street lighting at the moment. However, it's anticipated that this project will commence in 2025. I always get very nervous when we see just commence in 2025. Do we have a approximate quarter in 2025? Is it the first quarter? Or is it the last quarter? Because that is a big difference.
Thank you. Question's been stated. Thank you, Director.
Currently, we do not. We are basically in line and we will wait our turn.
Thank you. Any other further questions, councillors? No. Thank you, Director. Might as well stay there, Director. 15.4.2, the award of tender T003-2324, supply and installation of roads stabilisation works. Any discussion on that first, Director?
Yep, so the tender's gone out for the road stabilisation works. They're a little bit different from our current pavement works. So current pavement works at the top, the road stabilisation works are the surfaces underneath. So we've gone out to tender, we've had 2 tenderers apply.
Thank you. And Council, you'll be required to get a recommendation out of those 2 next week. Any questions? No questions. Thank you, Director. Our last item on the agenda, 15.5, which is corporate and commercial, 15.5.1. Award of tender T006-2324 corporate CCTV and access control. Glenda Abraham is the Director. Would you like to come forward, Director, please, for a briefing to Council?
So we received 2 applications on the tender. We assessed both based on the regional locations, pricing and service and understanding of the projects. There was one more suitable than the other.
Thank you, Director. Any questions to the Director regarding that? No questions. Thank you. That concludes our agenda and our agenda briefing for this evening. Our meeting will be conducted here at the Kalgoorlie Town Hall on the 29th of January at 7 p.m. Should there be any other further questions, councillors, please put them in writing to the CEO via the appropriate channels. Thank you again, and thank you to those folks joining us online, and good evening.